What is happening, investors? It is your boy Jack, and a lot of you guys have been asking for an update video in regards to NAT, so here we are. When we made the last video, NAT was after coming down from $9 to about $6, and as of right now, it's sitting at $5.25. What's crazy about this is that everybody expected it to boom up to $9 or $10, so now everybody is confused. They're like, what is going on? What should I be doing? Today, my goal will be to give some clarity in regards to what's going on, what's actually affecting NAT stock price, and what we can somewhat expect to happen going forwards. The last video we did on that did absolutely incredibly. If we can get anywhere near that again, that would be amazing. So please right now hit that like button for me. Drop me a comment with your thoughts on the video. All that does amazing things for the algorithm. It helps this video get seen by more people, and in return I'm going to help you out. And we're trying to hit 3,000 subs by Monday, so hit that little red button for me as well. You're helping your boy out massively. There is so much confusion around this stock right now. People just don't know why it keeps going down. Everybody was positive it was going to boom up to the moon, especially when we briefly saw it hit $9. So what has happened? What has changed? And from the very start, I'm not going to be looking at NAT's long-term prospects or anything like that, because I don't really think that there is any. It's going to be entirely in regards to the short term, so the next 3 to 9ish months. So with all of that being said, we know the premise of the video. Let's get straight into it. We're going to start things off with a quick recap of what has happened over the last while. So here on Thursday is when I uploaded my original video on NAT. Wednesday here, I can't find a chart that shows it, but it was at $9 for a very brief period of time. You can see that right here, the 52-week range, $9. That did happen on Wednesday, just so you're aware. I'm not sure why we can't see it on the chart, but anyway. So this chart here on the 5-day says we're down 28.61%, but it's actually just over 40% all in all. And people are confused because, you know, all of the fundamentals are in place. They're making an awful lot of money, like a lot of money. We're talking 1.4 million in profit every single day. They're going to have essentially no debt, literally no debt, more than likely within a quarter or two. They're going to be paying a massive dividend. A lot of big YouTubers are behind them. You know, Jeremy from Financial Education and Jim Cramer had the CEO on CNBC. There was a lot of hype behind these guys, but that is exactly what worked against them in the end. So I started off my first video on these guys just speaking about, you know, humans and the fact that we have emotions and how that can influence us to buy or sell a stock. And that's exactly how we're going to start today's video as well. The other thing that we will cover is oil prices and how that's going to affect these guys and what has happened with oil as of late. But we're just going to start off with us humans and our emotional tendencies. So right about here, at the 22nd of April, is when there was a lot of hype starting to build up around these guys. From Wednesday up until the weekend, that's when people were speaking about these guys. That's when they got on a lot of new people's radars. And just like they've gone down 60% now, you can see that we're at pretty much the exact same price we were at when all of this news started to come out. So now we've gone down 60%. It had also gone up 60% at one stage. But what we need to speak about is just how much excitement there was around this stock at the time, and how that poorly affected people's judgment, and how a lot of people just bought this stock without fully understanding what was happening, which has led to the repercussions of this stock ultimately coming back down. So what I want to do is have a look at the volumes that this stock has been traded at. Okay, so this is the first day that I spoke about before, the 22nd. Volume 12 million. The next day nearly doubled all the way up to close to 24 million. The next day still sitting about 20 million. Now the weekend happens, the Jim Cramer, you know, interview with the CEO comes up, Monday opens, 63 million. What happens next? 111 million. So just look at how much hype there was here. There was so many more people than usual buying, and a lot of these people wouldn't have really understood what they were buying, to put it nicely. So people have been emotionally buying the whole way here. They're really excited. People are speaking about these 100 to 200% return opportunities. People are just smashing the buy button, not thinking about it, right? We're all on a buzz. Everybody's buzzing. The weekend opens, wow, it flew up. Everybody's so happy. Here it flew up to $9ish, $8.50. A lot of people could have even sold that. And then the opposite starts to happen. And then this first red day happens. And people's emotions beforehand, you know, they're up, they're going crazy. And we just did a full 180, and now people are seriously afraid. Volume of nearly 59 million. 21 million, 22 million, 16 million, 21 million. So you see the volume started to come back down. The way I see it right now is a lot of people would have sold because they were happy with the money that they made, and they may have realized that they're not completely confident in these guys even in the short term. Then a lot of other traders would have sold because they're just utterly afraid. They don't even care if they sold at a loss. They don't care what happened. They're just afraid of what's going to happen next because they start seeing these downturns. And right now, we're back to the price where pretty much all of it began. This is more or less where all of the hype began, and people are so confused. There's a lot of people right now who want to buy this stock, but there's no reason for them to buy it yet. They're still going through a downtrend. They're still having lots of red days. They've lost so much the last week. Those people aren't willing to buy yet. They want this stock, but they're not willing to buy because there's no sign that they should. And on the other hand, there's a lot of people who probably bought around $6 to $7 who really don't want to sell because they do still believe, but they're not willing to buy anymore because they're already down so much. So this price point right here is a weird one, and that's why I think that the volume is getting a little bit lower. I expect it to go up again soon because a lot of people are stuck in this purgatory of sorts. They don't really know what they want to do. The people who want to buy, they don't know if they want to buy at this price. They don't know what's going to happen next. And the people who want to sell but are afraid to sell at a loss need to wait and see what happens next. I think what happens the rest of this week will be a good indicator of what's going to happen for the next, 2 to 3 weeks potentially. And remember, when we're speaking about a short-term stock, we're not speaking about a week or 2 weeks. Generally, we're speaking, 3 to 12 months. In my opinion, these guys have potential for the next 3 to 9-ish months. That's where I would put them if I was to take a position and if I was to try and, open up some sort of buy on these guys. Anything past that, we would need to see what happens over the next 3 to 6 months realistically. So simply put, we are humans, we are emotional, we are not robots, and that's why I believe we've seen so much of this up and down. But with that being said, the same fundamentals that I spoke about in my last video still stand. This company is making an awful lot of money. Now I want to speak about balance sheets, and I want to speak about where the company is now compared to where they were the last time they hit, highs. So a lot of people are speaking about NAT going to anywhere from 10 to 12, up as high as $15 to $18. So that is absolutely massive return, especially when you keep in mind we're only speaking 3 to 9 months. People are expecting, anywhere from kind of 100 all the way up to 300% gains. And I think the reason a lot of people are setting these benchmark numbers is because if we look at the 5-year chart, we can see there was a stage where for a while, for pretty much more than a year, they were trading between $11 and up as high as I believe $16. Right there was $16. So an average probably somewhere around $11 to $13. That's where I think a lot of people are getting the $10 to $12 range that they are aiming for. And we can see that these numbers are in 2015 and 2016. So if we look at their balance sheets, this is 2015, this is 2016. We see current assets, 118 million and 163 million. So it clearly was a good year and they made a lot of money, okay? Total assets, 1.23 billion, 1.35 billion essentially, okay? Liabilities, 20 million and 21 million. So it was still an absolutely fantastic balance sheet, and total liabilities 358 million up to 478 million. Okay, so back then, absolutely great balance sheets. By the second or third quarter of this year, NAT's balance sheet is going to be so much better than it was back then. Undoubtedly, they're more than likely going to have absolutely zero debt and a whole lot more assets. These guys are making 1.4 million profit a day right now to the best of our knowledge. Current assets right now, close to 130 million. Total assets, just over $1 billion, okay? Current liabilities, 59 million, and total liabilities, 435 million. So they do have, ever so slightly less assets and ever so slightly more liabilities to an extent, ratio-wise at least. But that is not accurate of what has happened now. This business is the best business these guys have had in so long. Their balance sheet is going to more than likely be the best it ever has been. And that is not in any way reflected in its stock price right now. For the years to follow, we can see their balance sheet just get kind of a little bit worse and worse. Now, I'll be honest, they never had a bad balance sheet whatsoever. But as it got worse, their share price went down. So does that mean that as it gets better, their share price will go up? To an extent, it is not that simple. There's always more than one metric. With that in mind though, I do think that this is a ridiculously cheap price for these guys in the short term. But I also want you to keep in mind that right now the stock market makes no sense. And I know that probably sounds like a cop-out to a lot of people, there's no explanation, but it really does not make sense. And if you're following the market, you know this to be true. There's been numerous cases over the last month where the market should have gone down massively and it went up, or where it should have gone up and it went down. So just because something should happen doesn't necessarily mean that it will. And obviously as well, I'm not a financial advisor. These are all just my own thoughts and opinions. Now the next thing we obviously have to think about is oil prices. Because keep in mind, the reason that these guys are able to charge so much right now and they're making so much money in this short term is because supply and demand is all out of whack. There is far too much supply and not enough demand. There's no planes flying, you're not driving your car as much, there's no cruises going. Simply put, there is not as much demand for oil. So the companies don't want to sell their oil for negative prices like we saw recently. They don't want to sell their oil really cheap. What they would rather do is store it somewhere so that they can later on sell it for a profit. And that is where your guys like NAT and other oil tanker stocks come in. These oil companies are paying these guys to hold their oil while it's really cheap so that they can sell later on and make a profit. And slowly but surely, oil demand is coming back up. A lot of countries expect there to be, less restrictions in place in only a matter of 1, 2, 3 months. A lot of countries expect to be completely open within that time. And when that happens, oil prices are inevitably going to shoot back up when the demand is there again. But in the short term, it is already starting to rally up quite nicely. Look at their 5-day change. They're up 27% more or less. Do you remember what NAT were down? 28.61% according to this 5-day chart. It is closer, however, to 40%. So there is correlations between oil prices going up and not going down. It's not exact, but there is correlation there. Oil demand is beginning a slow and fragile recovery worldwide. So it may be slow, it may not be the fastest, but the recovery is starting to happen, which inevitably will mean that the supply and demand will somewhat balance out relatively soon, which means that there won't be as much demand for oil storage or oil tanker stocks in general. A lot of people have the argument that NAT's contracts are for 6 months. And yes, that's great and all, but it doesn't mean too much. Just because they have a contract for 6 months does not necessarily mean that their stock price will go up for 6 months. We can't just take that as this stock is guaranteed to go up in value for 6 months. That would be a ridiculous thing to do. Just look at what happened the last 5 days already. We're pretty much back to where we were last week when all of this hype started. But with all that being said, the short-term prospects are absolutely fantastic. And a lot of people are speaking about their next quarter's earnings and how absolutely amazing they're going to be. And yes, they are going to be absolutely incredible. But do you not think that everybody knows this? They're telling us how much money they're making on a daily basis. It's not like it's going to be a surprise. Everybody already has all of this information, and it would have been priced in, when people were emotional initially and buying up. They weren't buying up for the sake of it. They were buying up because they understand there's going to be an amazing quarter's earnings the next quarter and even the one after that. So I wouldn't expect these next quarter's earnings to, push the price up massively just because it's fantastic, because everybody knows it's going to be an absolutely amazing report. Anybody in the world can come to an article like this and, get a quick idea of just how much money these guys really are making, okay? So these tankers are averaging 62,000 a day in 2020 and 112,800 a day for the week of April 24th. These earnings as of last week are 6.5 times their Q4 2018 report and 3.69 times their Q4 2019 report. You don't have to be a genius to see that they're making a whole lot of money. So this is not hidden information. This isn't giving you an edge. You're not a genius for figuring this out. It's going to be an amazing quarter's earnings, but that doesn't give you any advantage. That is not necessarily even a reason to buy these guys because it's such common knowledge. The reason earnings can have such a big effect on other stocks and they can make them jump, 10, 15, 20% in a day, whether it be up or down, is because we don't know exactly how much money these guys are making, whereas these guys, we just do. Now, good earnings are obviously always a good thing, and it more than likely will shift it up somewhat, but I wouldn't expect a massive move. And the next thing is the dividends, and the dividend undoubtedly is going to be absolutely fantastic, so I'll give you all that one 100%. If you're holding on to these guys for the next 3 to 9 months and you get 1, 2 or 3 dividend payments off these guys, they're all going to be beautiful. Keep in mind as well though, if you plan on getting out of them this quickly, you're going to be taxed harder on them, so just keep that in mind. There's still a lot more room for these guys to charge even more though. Look, if the June contract trades at negative $10 and the July contract trades at $20, an investor could spend $1 million a day on storage and break even. So NAT can actually, they have a lot of leverage, they could potentially charge a lot more, which will in turn hopefully bring their stock price up for all you investors. And you know why this is a short-term play? Is because what I said earlier is that when oil is in demand again, when people need their oil, people won't need NAT as much. And according to the EIA, oil is not expected to return to normal until at least Q3 2020. So that is why we expect these guys to have 1 to 3 good quarters, because we expect oil to have 1 to 3 relatively poor quarters, or at least 1 to 3 quarters until they're back to normal levels. But more than likely, by the end of the year, as we see on this graph right here, supply and demand will somewhat be back in order where it should be, and oil prices will be back to normal and more than likely climbing again. So there it is, guys. That is why I believe NAT has gone back down, and why I believe it more than likely will go back up. I'm just not exactly sure when I think it will go back up. It more than likely does have room to go lower if people want it to go lower. There's so much uncertainty in the market right now. This stock has largely been driven not only by the price of oil and supply and demand, but by people's emotions. It really is that simple. A lot of people are very emotional in regards to this stock. The same could have been said, when Carnival was really low. I definitely don't think the most volatile of this stock is over just yet. I'd be in no way surprised if we did rally another 50, 60, even close to 70, 80% in a matter of a week relatively soon, but that could literally go in either direction. I think the upside prospects far outweigh the downside prospects though, so from a short term point of view, I do think it's a fantastic stock. I personally still will not be touching off it. It just isn't a stock for me. I don't know what it would take to change my mind, but I don't have the interest in these guys right now. It just doesn't fall into my portfolio and what I like to invest in personally, but I completely understand why you would invest in these guys. The potential is crazy. I do hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please leave it a like, drop me a comment, and subscribe now if you haven't done those things yet. It helps me out so much more than you know. And as always guys, I will see you all for tomorrow's video. We upload every single day out here, baby. Until the next one guys, peace.